Hey everybody, Eric Schweitzer here for The Gamer, back with another TG Roundtable. Today I'm joined by three epic game lords, Meg Pelliccio,
Hello.
James Kennedy,
Hey.
and The Gamer's Editor-in-Chief Stacey Henley.
Hello.
I've gathered you all here today to talk about, I'm pretty sure, the Puppet Man from the Death Stranding 2 trailer. Right? Isn't that why we're here? I'm sure he's called Puppet Man. No, and nobody wants to talk about that. We're here for Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Meg, you and I had our chat, cover the broad strokes. You told me about Dundako Island.
Yeah.
I got it? Yeah.
Pretty much.
And we got into the segue, which was probably my favorite part. But all three of you have spent a lot of time with the game now, and so we can get a little more in-depth, a little more spoilery today. So, Meg, why don't you kick us off? Where should we start this discussion of Infinite Wealth?
Well, I suppose this is the first real chat I've had with Stacey and James about it properly. So they're both at different stages. I would love to know how you guys are finding the balance between Kasuga and Kiryu, because I went into this thinking maybe I'm just really biased and I don't mind the balance because I really like the old cast. So I'd love to know what you guys think about the balance of the two in it.
Well, I didn't play the originals. I started with Like a Dragon, so my first experience of the series was Ichiban. Obviously, some of the returning cast are in that one. Kiryu's in that game a little bit later on, but you don't play as him. You just meet him. And I've gone back since, played Kiwami, had to kind of dabble around with that. I know there's a debate of a way as opposed to start. I chose to kind of grow chronologically. Everyone said that's a really rough way to go. Found it a little rough. It was a big step down from Like a Dragon, I thought, just with everything to it. So I went into this not necessarily not wanting to see the other side of the story, but I was playing it entirely for Ichiban. I wanted his story. He was a much more interesting character. The voice actor is better because I play in English. I just preferred everything with Ichiban. And, Kiryu shows up and he's got a silly haircut. And I'm like, Nanban Adachi are back in Japan. I don't like this. I don't care for you. But as the game went on, I found myself really, really drawn to his story. I'm currently at chapter 8, which I think is about the halfway point, which is where you play as Kiryu. It's the first time you really get, I think it might be 7 where you first get control, I'm not sure. No, it is 8. So I'm at the point where you first get control of him and going through his whole story. I think it's really, really well done in the sense of they are clearly aware that there's going to be a lot of people like me, first-time players in the West, or fairly new players in the West who aren't necessarily that connected to Kiryu's story. So the way they feed through, like running around town and fetching these memories, I thought was a really endearing part of the game. And the balance between the two characters, it's not just that there's two different characters, it's obviously a big plot is that Kiryu has cancer. And the way they use the mechanics to do that quite tastefully, I really like. You've got to end his day with a rest. Ichiban can just kind of go on until the story needs him to go to a hotel or go to this place to have a fight, go to the beach. But with Kiryu, you've got to really there's a really concerted effort to have you be aware of the fact that his body has limits, that he's on borrowed time, not in a kind of classic video game. The bad guys are coming after you, sense, but in a very real impending sense of death that he makes peace with. So I think the whole thing is, I probably want to talk about this a little bit more in depth. I've written a lot about the romance elements of the games, but I think the whole thing is done so sensitively that even though I don't have the connection to the history of the series that some of the players do have, I have really enjoyed kind of reminiscing, because it's not just for the sake of fan service or players, it's because Kiryu is at a point in his life where reminiscing is an essential act to him.
I think that's really interesting. I really wanted to know what it would be like for someone who didn't play the original games to have those reminiscent moments. I was really curious because I had been telling people who wanted to get into the series that Like a Dragon was a great point to get into it. It's a fresh start. It's a good point if you want to get into the new games and you don't want to play 8 other games, right?
Yeah.
As much as I love those games. So yeah, I was really interested to hear what it would be like because I was thinking, oh no, is this going to throw people off? Because this means a lot to me. Those moments mean a lot to me. Like they hit me really hard. I couldn't believe how hard they hit me actually. But yeah, I'm really, really fascinated to hear that. Like you enjoyed them too. That they gave you something.
Yeah, I think that the whole game has this kind of clever flourish as to how it does game design is really interesting. Like, so I can't remember who somebody posted on Twitter. I hadn't really thought about this myself, to be honest. When they mentioned it, it clicked for me. At the start of the game, Ichiban is working. He's working at Hello. He's helping people get jobs. He's laid off pretty near the start of the game. Becomes a freelancer again. As soon as he does that, he's able to scrounge for money on the ground.
Yeah.
And that's like a really clever way of taking you on this journey. Even though I've not played all the previous games, I know they're very concerned with chronology and passing of time. They're not like Zelda, where it's kind of a new story each time. It's just a new character in a new place. A lot of games just kind of have the hero save the day, they start in the same position that they ended in, let's go for the next one. It's more of the same, but it's bigger, it's better, it's bolder. I know, even though I haven't played them all, that Yakuza or Like a Dragon has not done that. It's always been a real storyline that goes through time passes between each game. The characters learn things in the game that they really do carry through into the future, and obviously I think that's why, not that I've played it because I'm working on my own, but why I think everyone loves Zero so much is because it loops back around and you've kind of earned the journey there. It's not just a prequel to fill in some Easter eggs. So yeah, I think every aspect of the game design really leans into the chronology that makes you feel like you've been there the whole time even though you haven't.
Yeah, it does give you a sense of history even if you weren't there for the journey of that history.
Yeah.
I love that first hour too. I think that first hour of him just being a good guy, of just like Ichiban just helping people, I think that's really fantastic.
The opening scene, where he's walking down the street, that one, straight away I was just like, oh, this is going to be good. That, it was so him as well.
I didn't really like it until we got to Hawaii, I've got to be honest. I loved Like a Dragon. I really, really love this so far. I'm not finished it, but I know you give it 5 stars. If I was reviewing it and I was this far through, I'd be at the point I'm thinking this might be a 5-star game. So I really, really love it. My God, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to get there. And I know it lays the groundworks. I've been trying to get through it, even though I'm not on the review, being mindful of the fact that I wanted to do this. I want to see more of the story. I want to be able to... I'm invested in what's happening, really. Like, basically, that's it. I really have been drawn into the narrative, not just in a let's go and kill the bad guys way, but like I say, Kiryu and his battle with cancer, and kind of knowing that there is a sense of finality to the whole thing. This is not... There's not going to be... You can't really save the day on that one. He has cancer. It's not a bad guy that you can fight. So I've enjoyed the island, and I've been doing a bit of the Sujimon stuff as I've gone, but I'm kind of telling myself, once you've done the next bit, we can go back to the island. Once you've done the next bit, but the next bit's always so interesting that I know a lot of people are saying, oh, I haven't gone back to the main story because I'm just loving the island so much. I feel like I haven't gone back to the island because I'm loving the main story too much.
But now we're all here, right? And Eric probably knows this already. Let's talk about how Kiryu believes he got cancer.
Oh God.
So I wrote an article on this because when I first did that bit, I was kind of like, that's ridiculous, that's stupid. He chemical spill and he breathes in the fumes, and like, why was he even there? And of all the things that he could have just gone into a clinic and they've gone, oh, unfortunately you've got cancer. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, actually, this could be like a clever way of them turning this idea of him being a superhero on its head. And when you think of like comic book characters and they get their powers from like a chemical spill or whatever, and really it's going, yeah, but this is real life, and actually the poor sod just got cancer.
Yeah, I agree. I had your thoughts because I'd seen that piece. I know I hadn't seen like the full details of it, but the kind of the inversion of the superhero trope, I was kind of aware that there was something along those lines as I played it, and I don't know if I would have thought that independently, but knowing that I felt the scene really worked for that reason, because the whole point of certainly his arc in this game, I haven't played the series to comment on the rest of it, but is that Kiryu is this feared, legendary figure, but he's just a person. He's not this unstoppable godlike deity. He's not supposed to be. He doesn't want to be revered as anything more than a good person. And it's not just that he gets the chemical spill from being in a factory where there's someone else is trapped. He puts a relative stranger's life over his because he can't face the alternative. His mask breaks because he's trying to rescue somebody else, which is how it happens. Not like the vat spills on him and it's all a big slapstick cartoon. He deliberately puts himself in danger for the sake of someone he barely knows. And even though I don't know the series as well as you two do, I think that's a pretty core aspect of his character. That's what he would do in any situation. So it's funny we just talked about like superheroes, and there's been a lot of talk recently about Batman and the Suicide Squad. I think it's quite brave to take a character who is so unbreakable and give him the disease that people just. I know people do get cured of cancer and overcome it, but it's one of those diseases that we associate with terminality. It doesn't have a cure. It's not, you can't take a pill or an injection and it's kind of all gone. It's a long, painful course of treatment. And I think it's really emblematic of there are some battles you just can't win. And I think giving him not just an injury, not just some strange I'm dying of this vague disease. It's explicitly mentioned several times. I think it's really important that we see how he hasn't just got unlucky. Some people just get unlucky, don't know where it's come from. That he essentially chooses to get cancer to save another person from that fate. I think it doesn't really matter then how many kind of cinema sins style holes you can poke in. Should he have done it? Would it have worked that way? Why is he there in the first place? Etc. Etc. Yeah, I think it's a great scene.
Yeah,
I love the humanization of Kiryu in this, because this is the most humanized we've ever seen him. This is the most vulnerable we've ever seen him, by far. Like, we've never seen Kiryu need to rely on people as much as he does in this game, and I love that about it. I don't necessarily love him getting splashed with chemicals and getting cancer. I was kind of hoping that this was going to be them making good on the fact that they've had him smoking for like 9 games all the time, that they like work it into the game. They're like, hey, you haven't gotten your smoking achievement yet. You should be smoking more. I was kind of hoping that this would be their moment where they would consolidate and be like, hey, maybe smoking isn't great. But you know what? I do love the cancer element. I do love that part about his character, so I can forgive the chemical spill. And I like the idea of it being like a reverse superhero origin story, kind of like a Adam West and Family Guy thing, right? Where he like rolls around in the chemicals.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's clever, but it's like everything in the series, certainly the games I've played. All the things that are clever are also kind of stupid, and if there's certain bridges that you just can't go with, I think that is fine. I think a lot of people will probably respond that way.
I complain and I say, why was he there? Why was this secret agent in this chemical place? But at the same time, if I start trying to apply logic to this series, why does a castle split open and the second one like rise out? You just don't want to pull on that thread, do you? Because it will ruin it. got to have a willing suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
I love that they don't shy away from the castle thing too. They come back to it. They're like, "There's a memory."
Yeah,
where
he
Kiryu's
mentions
like,
it in one
Yeah.
of his memories, doesn't
I
he?
remember a castle
He did,
split
yeah.
open. People wouldn't believe me, but it happened. I swear. You know, it's
Yeah.
just it's great.
Yeah.
Somehow we are circling back to Death Stranding.
One of the other things I like that they did though in terms of embracing kind of like silly things is obviously in Like a Dragon, Casca sees like enemies as like weird and wonderful enemies rather than just normal people on the street like the others. And then obviously when it does split and you're Kiryu and you're still obviously in a turn-based party situation, he starts seeing them the same way, and they, rather than just do it and not be like, well, that's a bit odd, and ignore that, they acknowledge it, and he's like, oh, this is weird, and the others are like, oh no, not you too. I thought that was really clever.
I think the way they do that, it's more that they have, for how long the game is and how many, I know there's not choices like in an RPG where you can go down different pathways, but for how many options just in terms of things to do, and all the paths you can take down, the conversations that they have are so detailed, they're so responsive to the situation. I know some of them are just plotted around the map, go and get these to boost your bonds, go to this place, push triangle, speak to this person, but even the ones between scenes, the ones that they have when they're wandering, they're so contextualized to the situation that they're in. I know there's been a lot of discussion about one voice actor in particular, but I really like the dialogue and banter and the conversations that everybody has. I think it feels very warm, and I think that's what makes that thing work, because it's not like, I think it was Viewfinder last year where like 2 minutes in the person does that, the indie game voice. They're like, whoa, did you just do that? Really?
Oh, yeah.
That just happened. I think because they're so down to earth, all of the dialogue, all of which presented in Like a Dragon, they can have those conversations and they feel, even though we know they're for our benefit, they feel like they're part of the world. They don't feel like they're kind of tags to the player to say, here's how we've explained that there's still Sujimon running around for Kiryu and he has no idea and he's had 6 games of not doing this. So I think it's a cool game. I hate some of the creatures though. I hate the ones in the sleeping bags. I hate them so much.
It was the creepy like clowns on stilts that I didn't like.
Yeah, they're one of the bosses in one of the dungeons, like mid-level
they
bosses.
were like hard to kill, so I was like, now you're creepy and annoying to defeat, like double whammy.
You can't use half your skills on them. Can't like grab them. Can't do anything to them. Yeah, it's painful.
I mean, any boss where that happened, like, because I was obviously trying to get it done for review, it got to the point where I was just spamming like poundmates, and I'd get the host down, I'd be like, boom, done. And when I'd get to a battle where I couldn't do that, I'd be like, oh, I've actually got to like do this properly.
I don't think I've used the pound mates yet, you know. I liked them in the first game, but I just feel like I want to do, even though it's turn-based and people are like, oh, it's so slow, like, I really like the rhythm, I suppose, of the battles. You can have the combo attacks, there's the follow-ups, there's the tag teams, there's the different job roles. I've been having different characters on those. It still feels wrong, even though I don't have the connection to the series, to have Kiryu be anything other than just fighting with his bare hands. I don't like making him a chef.
I put him as a samurai, so...
At least that's
well.
linked to one of the other games, isn't it? But no, I think even though I know the pound mates are cool, and I've got loads of money because I've been doing those hero requests where you save people in the street. It just, there's so much to the way the combat works that I, as someone who's less emotionally connected to it, prefer to it's not hack and slash, but the beat 'em up style of the first 6 or 7 games, whatever it was. But I started with the turn-based stuff, so I'm used to it.
I do enjoy the turn-based battle way more in this one. It felt like a drag in Like a Dragon, because it didn't have the same like kind of nuance that it has in this one. It didn't have all those extra features and the thought going into it. Whereas I agree, you enjoy battles a lot more because you're thinking, I'm going to line this person up here and I'm going to do this, and it is more enjoyable because of that. And I say that as someone who always maintained I preferred the original beat 'em up style. Like, I actually really enjoyed combat in this one because they've like mixed it up quite a bit and improved it.
I think it needs to be said how good it is. Like it's genuinely excellent. I thought Like a Dragon was solid. I thought it was fun. But I did feel like it was limited, and it felt almost chaotic. Like half the time things were happening that you couldn't really control, and this one gives you so much control. And when you start unlocking bonds and you start getting those interactions, the things you can start plotting out are really fun, and it really opens up a lot of creativity. I really think this is an excellent turn-based battle engine. I think this is maybe one of the best.
Yeah, I think a lot of turn-based battles can feel quite static because you take your turn, I take my turn, you take your turn. That's what a turn-based battler is. But it feels so much more dynamic. Not just that you can kind of wander around a little bit, but because you can set up these links not just by, oh, if you guard this turn or if you charge up your super move, then I can do mine. You've just got to stand next to them and be friends with them, and you can operate new attacks from that, which I think works really well just as far as building your party out. The bond thing is very natural because you get them as you walk around the city. You get a lot of bond boosts just for finishing missions. So there's a lot going on that I think feeds into the turn-based battle system, whereas I think maybe the first time you're right, because the games for so long had not been made for turn-based battling, the rest of the world didn't necessarily suit it. There weren't things that fed into it as well, which I think in this one, I haven't finished it, and it's very strongly driven by the story, but I feel like it's better. Like a Dragon came out in 2020. It's never spoken about when we talk about that. We talk about the great games that came out that year. We mentioned The Last of Us. We mentioned Hades. We mentioned Final Fantasy. Some people mention Ghost of Tsushima. There's a lot of games that came out that year that get put in with these represent 2020's best. I don't really feel like Yakuza Like a Dragon is that. It's in the kind of the step below. It's not in the kind of classic defined this year. I know it's early, I know loads of stuff that come out, I know we might be getting a new Switch, which will change a lot of things, but this really does feel like it's a step up in every way. This is just a much better game in terms of all of the quality elements that goes into it. I think the story works really well. And I think when we end up looking back at the end of this year, not just you two are long-time fans and I really like the first game, but I think a lot of people in general will include this in their end-of-year picks. And we've never had, trivia for all the viewers out there, we've never had a game released in January be nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
This year will change that.
Could change this year because Suicide Squad came out in January.
I do genuinely believe, though, and I wrote this in my review, I genuinely believe every aspect of the series in Infinite Wealth has been elevated, and as a whole, that's what makes this the new peak of the series. Like, just everything about it. If you were to, carve it up into different aspects of the storyline and the side content and everything, just everything about it is so much better than you ever thought it could be, and it's just simply massive. Let's face it.
It's huge. We haven't really touched on the side content, and I haven't done as much of it, but I feel like we should be talking about.
We should.
The fact it's not just a Yakuza game. There's an Animal Crossing game in here and a Pokemon game in here.
And Crazy Taxi.
It's funny,
and Crazy Taxi, yeah, and Pokemon Snap.
James and I tackled different side content. So last week we were commiserating with each other because he was busy taking down honk honks and I was busy trying to get the last bug I needed on my island. And it was just so funny that really we're playing the same game, but we're just doing entirely different things.
Yeah, and I think obviously you guys approach it from a guidance perspective of we've got to kind of 100% a certain aspect before the game comes out, so that when people are looking for it, they'll be able to do it as well. But I think even people who play a lot more casually will find themselves doing that. Some people really won't be vibing with the Sujimon thing. It'll be too complicated. The raids don't really want to engage with it, just want to kind of have me battles, don't want to do one turn-based battle and a different style of turn-based battle. But they'll really love doing the Animal Crossing stuff. Other people will do the basics of the island until they can get on the dolphin and leave, and never go back because they don't like those sorts of games. And if they did, they'd be playing something where it's less beat up pirates with a baseball bat. But they'll really connect with whether it's the mini games and the sub stories, whether it's the Sujimon stuff. I just think there's in a lot of games you always say there's a lot of stuff, but it's often a lot of the same. You know, you think of some of the big open world games of the past few years, and there's a lot of stuff in them. If you like Assassin's Creed Odyssey Origins, there's a lot of stuff in it. You can play it for a very long time and have a great time with it. You know, reviewed very well. People like it a lot. But everyone who likes it for the same reason. And I feel like there are reasons you can really connect with Infinite Wealth that aren't the same reason. They don't necessarily rely on this specific aspect of the game. And I think that's probably something that we're not going to see bear fruit until people have had it for a long time and then have moved on to a certain part of it. Because most people won't rush through it to get every Hong Kong for the guide. They will do the things at their own pace that they like. But they'll still find a lot.
I am 100 hours, well over 100 hours into the game. I have not beaten the game, and I have not done every piece of side content. There is so much in this game, it's absolutely absurd. If you want to like play a game for 200 hours, this is the game for you. You can just go off and play 5 other different games that are wedged inside. There's a beat 'em up that was never released outside of arcades that is now fully playable inside of this. It's great, by the way. Spike Out is an awesome game. Go to the Sega arcade in Yakuza in Like a Dragon, and go play this.
It's not
awesome
the
beat 'em
Sega
up.
arcade anymore.
Sorry, it's not. It's the what is it? What is
They
it?
rebranded them to is it G-Joe or G-Go?
Oh, it's something along those lines.
It's
Yeah,
in the Anaconda as well.
Yeah, so they rebranded them in this one, and I did like a double take when I first saw it, and I was like, oh no.
They reference it, I don't know, they say like, these Sega people sure make cool video games. It's one of his memories is like, I remember playing these arcade games. They all seem to be made by a company called Sega. I hope they don't lay anybody off soon.
On that note,
Oh no.
where do you all want to see the series go from here? I'm going to say that again. Where do you all hope that the series will go from here? Meg, do you just want to hold the Deco Island spinoff?
If they could have released this as a separate digital only title and made money. I feel like now they've put that in, they need to kind of maintain that aspect. It's going to become so beloved that people will want it in the next one, or they'll have to do something. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, I actually think now is the perfect time to put Kiryu and everyone else, kind of the old cast, properly to bed. Everyone kind of take the past and just look forward to the future. Whether that's still in Japan or Hawaii or somewhere entirely new, I don't really mind as long as the story's interesting enough to have a reason to take them there. But I really want to focus on the new characters. For me, I'm more wondering, they keep adding new party members. Who is the next game going to be about? You know, is he going to continue collecting party members and have this endless supply of people? Or, are Namba and Adachi going to go and do their own thing and they'll just become cameo people? Or... Yeah. But I'm really interested to see where it goes from here, because I feel like even though 7 was kind of the start of a new era, the next one will be the real start of the new era.
Yeah, I feel like when this one was revealed, there was a little bit of a shock because it had both of them in it, and everyone was kind of we thought the torch had been passed. It feels like you passed it back. And I think there was a little bit of reservation as to, are the wheels just kind of spinning? You've kind of had this new idea, or you kind of too connected to the past. But even though I haven't finished the game, so I don't quite know how all that slots into place, it is a real sense of handing over everything. So I think the idea of being a little bit jet-setting kind of works for this game. Obviously, one of the things that the series as a whole has been built upon, and why it's been so consistent, is it's all in the same place. So you can just, like we've seen this with Spider-Man as well, you can make the game a lot quicker if you have it set in the same place. So I don't know if it would be kind of cool to say, right, we did. First one was set at home, new city for the series, but at home in Japan. Next one was Hawaii, and next time we're gonna go, I don't know, something completely different, Alaska, mainland
No, not
USA,
Alaska.
not Alaska. But it could go somewhere completely. They could go to Europe. They could go to China. Like they could do a lot of things where they. A big thing, obviously, with Hawaii is that there's a connection to a lot of Japanese culture. It's a popular destination for Japanese tourists, for Japanese settlers. So there's a big connection there. If they were to move to, I don't know, there's not a big Japanese population in Britain, for example. So if it were to come here, they wouldn't have that cultural link. It would be a completely different setting for them. So because the culture is a really big part of the game, I think they should go somewhere that has a link still to Japan. But it would be interesting to see them explore that through other places that have that sense of connection. But it would also be cool for them to say, this works for us. We're going to still be in Hawaii for the next, we're still going to go back to just have the whole thing be in Japan and do a different story there. Because I think the familiarity is a big thing that the game leans upon. Even when you go to Hawaii, there's the same basic shops, there's the same basic ideas that the series has had. And when they change, they're specifically referenced by Ichiban. Oh, in Japan we do it this way, but this minigame is different. So I think the future of the series is probably, as it really always has been, as my knowledge, going to be built upon the characters and the story, as opposed to where should it go and how can we make it different. I think the story is what makes these games.
That's it for this video. You can find all of our exceptional Infinite Wealth coverage linked down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's the gamer, no space.